Adam Drummond here, and joining me is the Director of, as you can see on the screen here, Central Telecoms, Andy Heller. Mate, this is exciting because we are live right now. It's the first time you've done this too, isn't it?
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
It did seem like a good idea, but you're in the deep end now. We are live, which means that you can actually send in questions as well. It's all about the NBN, particularly if you're involved in business here locally, or you also operate, I should say, out the Central Coast as well.
Yeah, Central Coast, Newcastle, Albury, Wodonga, and pretty much anywhere in regional New South Wales and heading into regional Victoria at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, just for the viewers out there, because we'll get into what this whole series is about in a moment, but you might want to say what Central Telecoms is. Where are you guys with regards to the NBN and the rollout, and who should use you?
For sure, we're a local telco, and I think that's what everybody's looking for, the ability to have a local point of contact that is entirely responsible for your telco needs. So we bring together the best of the best in NBN connections and hosted voice services and SIP trunking services.
Right.
And just take that pressure away from a local business or a small business that just wants somebody that they can trust to just get on with the job.
And that's the reason that you've started this weekly series. So we will be going live at 12 o'clock every Tuesday for the next 10 weeks. Andy's going to be here, or someone from Central Telecoms, to talk about some of the frustrations that are out there, in particular when it comes to business NBN connections. And we've got new topics each week. Today we're going to be talking about the top 3 most common frustrations that Andy's seen. Remember, you can send in questions to our Facebook page. This week it's at wagawagga.tv, but in the coming weeks it'll also be on the Central Telecoms Facebook page. We've got a couple of questions that we've put aside for later that Andy and the team have come across that are fairly common out there. But we're going to start right now with the 3 most common frustrations for business users of the NBN. And mate, the first one is the time it takes to get connected. Why is it so long, and what are some of these time frames?
Every town and every region's different. And every connectivity type, so every different way of connecting to the NBN has its own lead times and has its own technicians that are capable or able to do that connection. But realistically, a lot of the reason why you hear this 6 months to get connected is just down to your service provider's ability to get that connection ordered and arrange technicians to go out. For us, where we order our NBN connections direct into our portals that link straight into the NBN portals. For us, it generally takes about 5 to 10 business days from the point of ordering to the point where you have an active working NBN connection in your business.
Now, is this an advantage for you guys because you are a smaller, more agile unit compared to some of the bigger named telcos out there? Because as a consumer, you'd probably think, well, the big names are going to be able to do this quicker. They've got way more resources, etc. Not the case?
No, not really. Because the thing is when you call a Telstra, an Optus, or a Commander, or one of these larger telcos, they have their local point of contact that you deal with, who then has to submit that order to body corporate or some sort of call centre overseas.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the issue is no matter who you're dealing with, you're not actually dealing with the person that presses OK and submits that order.
Okay.
So from the day that you actually order it, it might take another 2 weeks or 3 weeks for actually to be ordered.
Yep.
With NBN, and that delay, or in some cases, as I say, like 5-6 months before you're even connected.
Well, that's not on. That's not on.
Well, it's just a downright lie. There's no reason for that to take that long. From when you actually submit the order, an NBN technician will generally be out to your business within 1 to 10 business days. Particularly in Wagga and the Central Coast, which is where we have the most heritage.
So if you've come across this frustration yourself, maybe dealing with some of the bigger telcos, some of the lesser known ones as well, people are probably, their ears are pricking up. They've gone through this, or they know friends and family that are going through it. What should they do? What's the best call to action we should get them onto for you guys? Is it the Facebook page?
Yeah, send us a message on Facebook and let us know what your problem is, and we'll shout you a coffee.
There you go. So that is the deal that they've put in writing as well, my friends. If you send a direct message to the guys at Central Telecom on their Facebook page, they will shout you a coffee, and they'll go through all of your problems, issues, or potential problems down the track and work out a solution for you. Let's get on to the next one. This is massive. Again, we're not really talking residentially here, although residential people do come across this as well. It is if you're a business. It's the advertised speeds are not necessarily what you get when you've connected the NBN. That's a common thing. What's going on there?
It's it's an expectation level, I suppose. You know, when it's taxpayer money, we all want what that advertised section is, and we like when you go into a store and it says it's up to 60% off, and everything's actually 1% off.
Yeah, that's right. You find the one item that's 60% off somewhere.
Yeah, it's hiding in a back corner somewhere, and it's nothing that anybody wants. So, but with NBN, the issue is again, it comes down to a few different things. So, I mean, you're mainly to do with your service provider.
Okay.
So they have to be able to have a large enough network or purchase enough backhaul space and network space, like from when it leaves that last mile, that last NBN connection.
Yep.
To be able to provide the speeds that you're saying. But also, it's to do with how the NBN is rolled out at your address.
Okay.
So there's many different options, but your address has its own tag. So whether that be fibre to the premises, fibre to the node, fibre to the basement, fibre to the curb, fixed wireless, or satellite. Each of those have their own little issues or reasons why they take longer or have a slower speed.
Let's get your marker out, mate, because I know you're itching to use this whiteboard that we've got set up behind us. You talk about fibre to the node, fibre to the premises. This is something that we've become pretty much accustomed to over the last couple of years as the rollouts happen. But from a business perspective, what's the most common one? It's going to be to the node and then connected to the business, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure. At the moment, most people, particularly in our key regions and regional areas, everyone's having the fibre to the node rollout. It's slowly but surely being replaced by fibre to the curb, but as that hasn't really rolled out yet, there hasn't been too much testing on that. But the fibre to the node is what most people have and will continue to have for as long as NBN decide that's what that property will be rolled out.
So, in a simple diagram, can you explain the speed or the issue with speed if they have got it set up fibre to the node and then it's going from the node to the premises?
Yeah, for sure. So with a fibre to the node connection, essentially, previously speaking, you'd be connected to the exchange. So, so this is your house over here, or your business or your property, and then over here is the internet, and how you. So essentially, what we're talking about here is how you get from your house to the internet.
Sure.
So from here, you've got your business, your sort of service provider's network and that backhaul connection, if you like, as to their speed, or that creates that speed and that throughput on the network. And then over here is how you get there. So previously, you just had a long copper pair.
Yep.
It could be up to about 5 kilometres long. In here, you then have this node. So what they've done now is they've basically put a fibre connection from the exchange to the node. And instead of running the copper cable from your house to the exchange, they just cut it off here and bring it into the node.
Okay, and this is what we know as the ADSL line, is it?
Yeah, your old ADSL lines, your old analogue phone lines.
Sure.
So it basically the node realistically just brings the exchange closer to your premises. And the things that affect speed here is the main one is your distance from your property to the node.
Sure.
If you're within 500 metres or so, you're not really going to notice any speed issues at all. But if you're, maybe 1,000 metres away,
things slow down.
Well, things go back to a sort of an ADSL speed.
Right.
And so most properties, the idea around this node rollout was to basically be able to connect, say, 300 or 400 properties in an area to one central point. That would mean that they'd only be maybe like anywhere up to about 600 or 700 metres away. But in rare occasions, or in some occasions, there are properties which are a little bit further and they do struggle.
Well, let's talk about this, because the issue here is the advertised price. Is the advertised, let's say we've got a download speed of 100, upload speed of say 40, I think that's a common mix.
Yeah.
Where is that speed occurring? Is it here or is it in here? Whereabouts is it?
It's at both sides. So
Okay.
The first point here is your equipment in your property also has creates an issue. So if you're using a free router from or a free modem from your service provider, it's obviously not going to be the highest grade quality equipment, and that causes a speed issue. From then your property to this node, this copper length, that distance also creates some level of degradation.
But it's in here going out to this point where you could have like 300 or 100 people all connected at once.
Yeah, and so you have contention on that node, but also at this side you're then on the network provider. So this is sort of your service provider. And then the other side is your NBN connection.
Yep.
That's or that last piece of infrastructure. And to be clear, the NBN is literally just a cable. There's nothing wrong with that cable, apart from the fact that this one might be a bit too long or longer than it should be.
Sure.
But what it does is speed up what you are used to as an ADSL connection. And at worst, you should be getting an ADSL speed at very, very worst. But in most occasions, we're talking to customers which, they're at worst, their speed is 10 times or 5 times faster than what they were working at.
Okay.
And from an expectation point of view as to what a residential grade, which is what the NBN is, it's a residential service that small businesses utilise for a cost-saving exercise. Essentially, you are utilising a pretty good connection that is better than what you had before. And sometimes you just have to accept that that it is what it is.
Yep.
It's not what it should be. It's not great. It's not what we all wanted, but it is what it is. How can you best use that network for your business?
Exactly. You get what you got. That's what my kids are telling me at the moment, and that's what we've got.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about the congestion. Remember, if this is still sounding like gobbledygook to you, you can get in contact. Send a direct message to the guys at Central Telecoms on their Facebook page. They'll shout you a coffee. They'll have a chat. All the contact details are on the Facebook page as well. You can get in contact with them by phone. Let's just talk a little bit more about this congestion issue, because some businesses in Wagga, 40 staff,
yep,
all uploading, downloading at the same time.
Yep.
How do they even know what the best option is for them if they've got that many people all working at the same time between 9 and 5?
To be honest, for the price difference of $5 or $10, just get a 140 connection.
Yep.
Once it's connected, you can then look at it, and for us, we run 0-month contracts.
Yep.
So we can just change things around so that we reduce that speed down to something more acceptable.
And can you, just while you're on that point as well, can you have, so for instance, not all staff members are working on the same project. Some need upload speeds more so than others. Is there a way that you can give more bandwidth to one employee as opposed to the rest of the employees?
Yeah, that's an IT issue. So again, your telco service provider, they're just responsible to getting it live at your property.
Okay.
For some businesses or some telcos, they might be able to provide some IT services as well. But for most businesses, it's sensible at the time of connection just to get your IT company involved in that process or discuss it with them so that they can come in and do what they need to do within your property.
Great.
NBN is supposed to be bringing out some business grade traffic classing, or it already has brought them out. It's just not a very competitively priced product at the moment.
Yep.
It's something that we're looking at building into our network at the moment. But once NBN brings it out as a more competitive product, you'll be able to get what companies who are used to using, say, an EFM link or a business Ethernet service. You'll be able to utilise the NBN infrastructure to be able to get those guaranteed simultaneous speed connections over the NBN infrastructure at a much more competitive price than utilising a private business lease line.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Are we ready to move on to the third frustration,
yep,
Andy?
Sure.
Okay, so we've talked about the time it takes to connect. 6 months is outrageous. Get in contact with these guys if you want a shorter connection time. Then we've got issues not getting the advertised speeds well explained. Again, if you've got any questions because you didn't understand all of it, get in contact with these guys on their Facebook page. The third one is, once it's gone live, there may be a lack of connectivity, and we're talking VoIP here, voice over
downtime.
IP. Yep.
Yeah, we're talking downtime.
Okay, great. Explain some of the issues around this.
So, we hear it all the time. Like, you go in and speak to a business and they're nervous about switching over because, Joe Blogg's business down the road he was out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And again, it comes back to this ability to order and provision a service. So if you deal with a major company and they order that connection, late, so it takes forever to get it connected, and then they book in your professional installation, maybe a week or 2 weeks after your NBN connection goes live.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be on two networks at once.
No.
So if you're on the NBN, you're on the NBN. If your equipment and everything hasn't been installed and set up correctly, it's obviously not going to work. And then your issue is then you're on neither. You have no internet connection on ADSL because you perhaps moved that line over to the NBN, but the NBN connection hasn't been installed properly or configured correctly, so you don't have either connection.
What do people do when this happens?
Well, yeah, from a lot of what we hear, not very much.
Right, okay, so this can disrupt the business.
For sure, like you speak to customers who have lost thousands, and it's not just that. If you order it incorrectly, in some cases, we've seen customers who've lost their advertised lines. So their main business phone number, or maybe their fax line, has just disappeared.
So if they're dealing with you guys, you're going to step them through this whole process and make sure this doesn't happen. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. There's a very simple process for ordering an NBN connection. You order the NBN connection on the most suitable line in your business, and you make sure that the old analog services can continue to work whilst that NBN connection goes live. Okay. It's called either voice band continuity or PSTN pass-through. You order it like that, and then the old service continues to work whilst the NBN is also live on that line. Much like people used to run an ADSL and a fax or an FPOS on the same line. Exactly. Then all you do from there is just port the numbers onto an NBN ready service or an NBN voice service, and like our own, and 4 to 6 weeks later, you've moved your internet connection and your voice services and your phones or your phone system onto an NBN ready service with absolutely no business downtime or very, very little.
Now, just so people don't freak out, it's not them porting it, it's you guys doing it, is that right?
Yeah, you don't have to.
They don't have to do anything.
No, we run you through the process. We tell you exactly what you need to be aware of, how long certain things take, and I use an example of a washing machine. All the issues you had before. Yep. You take them away. We put them into a washing machine, wash them, and on the other side, your services work as you want them. None of this like having to have certain lines have line hunt, and then when you call out, it displaying a random sort of second number. Customers get into this like situation where they grow faster than when they first installed everything, and suddenly their services don't work. And we just wash all of that out and make your business work exactly how you want it.
Great analogy. Do you do the washing at home?
I do actually.
Wow.
Not very well. But.
No, I didn't expect that answer. So we're going to we're trying to make this interactive, so if you do have a question, put it through. We've got some people behind the cameras here. Has any questions come through at the moment? We've got a couple that have come in at the moment. Here's one from a great question from one of your customers. Do smaller local providers get treated differently to the main telcos when there's faults or ordering of new services? So people would probably think so. What's the answer?
Yeah, for sure. In short, no.
Okay.
To be honest, most people assume that Telstra still own the network, or Telstra would get the priority of service. Yeah. But they don't. They sold that network to the NBN. The NBN is that wholesale infrastructure provider. So whenever you have order a service, or whenever you've got a fault with that service, everybody orders or everybody goes to NBN to log that fault or that new order creation. So if you go with a large provider who, going back to all the other points around how long it takes them to get things connected and sorted, for a new service, they go through the same process to log a fault. Yes. That technician comes and says there's a fault, or that local account manager comes and says, okay, there's the fault. You're calling an offshore call center, or you're calling a bloke that's got to go through 10 other steps to log that fault. Sure. Which delays things being fixed.
Well, here's another question, and this is to do with experiences once we were on the ADSL lines, and that is, if you went with a bigger provider, quite often you would get a bigger pipe, so to speak.
Yeah, priority.
With regards to speed and things like that. Is that still the case with the way the NBN works? So do you have the big guys getting these huge pipes, which means more traffic can go up and down?
There's maybe 5 to 10 wholesalers on the NBN network, whether that be Telstra, Optus, Commander, Vocus, TPG, AAPT. There's a multitude of them, and they all have their own large networks in the background that manage and support these NBN services. And then the NBN creates the infrastructure that links from your property to that network. Great. And so for us, we can, because we only deal with business customers and we're not chasing hundreds of thousands of NBN connections, what we're doing is providing a business-grade quality of service with enough bandwidth to support all of our business customers. Okay, great. Well, I think you've answered that one. Now, the other question, I think we've touched on this a little bit as well. Why do I hear that loads of people getting cut off, disconnected for both phones and internet for weeks at a time? I guess this is probably around that whole VoIP issue of porting. It's that process of connection. So, if you've ordered a service and then the day that the NBN tech comes to turn it on is one day, and then 2 weeks later you've got your professional installation from another provider or one of the major telcos. There's that 2 week lull or gap in between where realistically you're just going to be without a service. And if they haven't ordered it with PSTN pass-through or voice band continuity or those buzzwords, then essentially it just means that the old analog services just get cut off at the time that your NBN connection comes on. You then have to wait that period to port those numbers or those services onto an NBN service, and it is possible to get things back. It just takes a little bit longer, and get those services up and running and working.
Great. Okay, so we are live. We're here with Andy Heller, Director of Central Telecoms. We've just about wrapped up the top 3 frustrations. That's what we've been talking about today. If you come on late, go back and watch it again. It'll be on demand. Next week, we are going to be talking a little bit more about the voice over NBN products and services and what that entails as well. Don't forget that all the contact details for these guys at Central Telecoms is on their Facebook page. And this means that if you send a direct message to them, they'll not only shout you a coffee, they'll go through all the issues that you've got and help you out as well. Anything else you want to say, Andy, before we go for this week's 12 o'clock live Tuesday session?
For sure. Last week and actually this morning, I had 2 customers in Wagga.
Yes.
That one of them came and knocked on my door, and another one gave me a phone call, who had been told that it would take 6 months or up to 6 months to get an NBN connection and phones, potentially paying double rent or paying rent on a service where they can't even have an internet or phone connection.
Wow.
And having a quick discussion with them, we were able to provide that by next week.
Wow, so that, a massive frustration for them, but that must be music to your ears to hear that people have got these issues out there and you can solve them.
Yeah, well, it's the reason I have a business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there having these discussions with their service providers or having these frustrations and going through it without seeking help. And we just say to people, look, keep your telco honest, give us a shout.
Absolutely, give them a call. Again, NBN Expert Chat is what we're calling these weekly sessions, 12 o'clock each Tuesday. Send a message to these guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.